afternoon, children. Welcome to online class session 18. Previous session we discussed about economics, GDP and its growth and development. Today we are going to learn history, new chapter, the world between two world wars. The word war means conflict or clashes. The conflict between two group of countries resulted wars. The period from 1920 to 1950, entire world suffered politically and economically. The First World War shattered the global capitalist system based on European imperialism. The European powers were weakened by the war financially and politically. The trade and financial imbalance left by the war and the harsh peace created instability throughout the year 1920s. The conflict between the workers and the ruling classes that control the government became intense. As a result of this, fascism emerged in Italy and Nazism emerged in Germany. Anti-colonial struggle got intensified as the colonial powers were weakened by the war. The Soviet Union's role in extending solidarity to the struggling nationalist movement. It was the high noon of imperialism in Africa during the interwar period. In contrast, the independence to the Latin American countries had occurred even before the first half of 19th century, but they had to soon confront their protector turned exploiter, the USA. As we saw in the last chapter, the crisis in the Western world had led to the outbreak of World War I. Now we see the social and political development in the world after the end of the war. Let's we see the development in the post-World War I. The First World War led to the expansion of certain industries. When the war came to end, the industries that grew to meet wartime requirements had to be abandoned or modified. Huge stocks had to be disposed of and large number of workers had to be sacked. This dissatisfaction among the working classes led to many strikes. The situation was made worse by the political complication caused by the Treaty of Versailles. A new wave of economic nationalism, which expressed itself in protectionism or in tariff barrier, affected the world trade. Tariff barrier which protecting their trade. The war also placed a heavy burden of debt on every European country. So these are the major development in the post-World War in European countries. Next, we see withdrawal of American capital, that means American investment. At the end of World War I, America was financially in a sound position. As the money lender to the world, America encouraged the flow of capital into Europe, which helped the European debtor countries. The capital outflow also found outlet in new investment. But these investments yielded profit only after a period. In a meantime, A slump in US economy forced the government to impose restriction on the export of capital. This resulted in a steep decline in the volume and value of export all over the world. Next, the stock market crash in US. The withdrawal of American capital was aggravated by the US market crash in 1929. The first huge crash occurred on 24th October 1929. This discouraged investors and consumers to such an extent that more and more people began to sell their shares and dispose their stocks, but there were no buyers. This was followed by the failure of American banks. The American financiers were forced to recall their own fund invested abroad. The stoppage of loans to Germany by America led to the failure of two large German banks. The Bank of England also found itself in bankruptcy. So these are the importance problem faced by USA and European countries because of the stock market crash. Next, breakdown of international system of exchange. Despite emergency measures such as cutbacks in expenditure and increased taxation, the situation did not improve in England. So England decided to leave the gold standard. So what is gold standard? Gold standard is a monetary system where a country's currency or paper money carried a value directly linked to gold. Countries in the gold standard agree to convert paper money into a fixed amount of gold. Immediately, a great number of countries left the gold standard. Each nation adopted a policy of protectionism and devaluation of currency. The devaluation forced the creditors to stop lending. This led to worldwide credit contraction. The defensive measure adopted by various nations to safeguard their economic interests led to an unprecedented decline in the world economic activity, as its effect was deep and prolonged. Economists and the historians called it a Great Depression. Next we see the repercussion in politics. Because of economic depression, there are so many political changes in Europe and America. The depression changed in the political condition in several countries. Especially in England, the Labour Party was defeated in the general election in 1931. In USA, the Republican Party was rejected by the people in successive elections for about 20 years after the Depression. So in USA election, a new political party was elected and F.D. Roosevelt became a president of America. So this was the major unpleasant effect. That means repercussion means unpleasant effect took place in Europe and USA in the political field. That's all for today's class. Thank you, children.